Renault has been a market leader in delivering plug-in hybrid technology in smaller cars, models like this one, the Captur E-TECH Plug-in Hybrid 160. This compact crossover offers a 31-mile electric driving range and super low benefit-in-kind taxation exposure, both things common in this class and highly valued by potential customers. Here though, it's all presented with a combination of family-friendly flexibility, the sliding rear bench for example, and a bit of Gallic pizzazz courtesy of the available opportunities for bodywork and cabin customisation, which all creates a car that's worth a second look. Slowly but surely, plug-in hybrid technology is beginning to get more affordable amongst family cars, and the list of choices available is gradually widening. Now, if you want this kind of tech when the time next comes to swap your car or your lease, then here is one of the most affordable ways to get it. Renault's Captur E-TECH Plug-in Hybrid 160, the PHEV version of our market's favourite Renault model. There are actually two Captur E-TECH hybrid models. The other is a more affordable variant that you can't plug in, the E-TECH Hybrid 140, which uses the same powertrain fitted to petrol-electric versions of the Clio Super Mini, and which might actually be a better bet for quite a few customers perusing what's on offer here. Our focus in this test though is on the plug-in Captur 160 model, which thanks to its much larger 9.8 kilowatt-hour battery can offer the commuting distance all-electric driving range that its self-charging E-TECH showroom stablemate lacks. And thanks to that, the kind of super low CO2 reading that in turn delivers a super low benefit-in-kind tax liability. There is quite a steep price tag though to go with that kind of capability. You might never have expected to be paying well over £30,000 for a Super Mini based SUV of this size. The question is whether this plug-in Captur can justify it, and that's what we're here to find out. The concept of plug-in hybrid technology with cars of this size is still a comparatively fresh one, so it's probably unlikely that you'll have driven a PHEV before this one, which isn't necessary anyway because there's nothing much different to get used to from behind the wheel. There is an automatic gearbox, of course. It's a hybrid, so you have to have that, but there are no weird controls or confusing buttons to press. Mind you, it is a little strange to start things up to the sound of silence. This model fires up solely on full battery power, and you always ease away in the car's all-electric pure drive setting. What happens once you get going depends on how much charge there is in the battery and which of the various driving modes you've selected. There are three: Pure, which engages all-electric drive, and that's joined by Sport, which is engine only, and MySense, which is a hybrid setting that's engineered to use both power sources most efficiently. Electric, engine and hybrid would have been more sensible button titles. The last thing you need to do with a car like this is to complicate things. Anyway, there's nothing particularly complicated about the way that you'll quickly find yourself using those settings. If, when in town for example, you want the car locked into battery-only drive, then you'll activate this EV button on the fascia. Otherwise, the hybrid MySense drive mode will be your most flexible everyday setting choice, and that's one that'll see the engine occasionally cutting in and out to help the battery until the electric range, WLTP rated at 31 miles, is used up and full-time combustion power becomes necessary. The combustion unit in question is of 1.6 litres in size, which is paired with a 49 kilowatt electric motor and a smaller integrated starter generator, which together draw their energy from the 9.8 kilowatt hour lithium-ion battery housed beneath the rear passenger seat and generate a combined output of 160 horsepower. Even more complex is the automatic gearbox that sophisticated drivetrain is mated to, necessarily so because it has to work with two completely different power sources. It's of a design that's borrowed from Renault's F1 racing technology, and it's of the clutchless dog variety. And that's so named because of the long dog ear-shaped teeth which ring each of its cogs and can tolerate rapid, violent shifts. This transmission works via 2 forward ratios for the main electric motor and 4 more for the petrol engine. There are actually 15 different operating modes in total, but you won't have to worry about any of that because all the cog switching goes on without any input or interference from the driver once the D mode has been selected. Actually, you don't have to use the gearbox in its ordinary D position, and it'd be rather good if quite frequently you could remember not to. Nudging the selector backwards into the alternative B drive setting will significantly enhance the level of brake energy harvesting that'll make your battery-only driving range last just a little bit longer. You'll feel the effect of that immediately. The car slows down so much when you come off the throttle that it'll be rarely necessary to use the brake pedal, except of course when you're coming to a complete stop. Even when you do use the pedal, regenerative force is what's actually being used to slow the car down for most of the pedal's travel, which means that nearly all the time when you're either off throttle or slowing the car down, restorative energy is being fed back into the battery. Usually that saved energy is used by the powertrain to assist acceleration, although there isn't enough of a power boost ever to make the car feel especially sprightly. 62 from rest takes a comparatively leisurely 10.1 seconds on the way to just 107 miles an hour. So you might want to take control of the whole process and use the energy that you've gained a little more proactively. Now, this is possible by activating the e-save option in the MySense Center Dash screen menu, which allows you to save at least 40% of the battery's remaining energy until it'll be most useful to you, say for the urban driving you might have to do at the end of a long motorway trip. However you use the energy sources on offer, efficiency always remains this car's primary purpose. Driving satisfaction here lies not in hurling this thing about, but by staying within the sweet spot of the complicated powertrain's capabilities. As we've suggested, there's certainly a lot going on, as you'll gather if you can be bothered to keep an eye on the instrument panel's graphical display. It's a triangulation of battery, e-motor and engine, which shows the hyperactive system's flow of energy. There is also a useful energy infographic on the central screen that shows at any given time what's being powered by what. If you're in the hybrid MySense drive mode, then one moment the engine could be powering the wheels via the fixed ratio gearbox, then the main e-motor might take over, and then both might work in tandem, and then you might relax the accelerator and find that all of a sudden the energy is being harvested. It's quite satisfying to interact with all this by keeping the digital power meter in the instrument cluster dial in blue for regenerative braking, or green for eco or electric driving, and seeing the EV light flicker on and off as battery power eases in and out of the whole process. Reversing, by the way, will always be done fully electrically. If you are testing this car, having tried its 2 main compact crossover plug-in rivals at this price point, the PHEV versions of the Kia Niro and the Mini Countryman, which would be sensible, the main thing you'll notice with this Captur is that its auto gearbox feels more responsive than that of the Kia, and the ride is a little better than that of the Mini, although damping suppleness with this Renault is perhaps inevitably nothing like as good as that of the ordinary Captur. You can blame that on nearly 400 kilos of extra PHEV system curb weight and the extra lateral body stiffness which Renault had to build into the chassis to cope with all that extra bulk. The result of this is that speed bumps are met with a bit of a jolt, and uneven surfaces trouble this clever Captur quite a bit more than you'd hope they might. That would be a little easier to accept if the stiff setup had delivered taut body control through the bends. As it is, when you are pressing on through low-speed corners, the car leans quite a bit, although to be fair, it does handle faster flowing bends much better. None of this is likely to trouble most potential customers very much. They won't be expecting cutting-edge driving efficiency to be matched with cutting-edge drive dynamics. The compact crossovers that do offer that sort of thing, Ford's Puma for example, aren't saddled with the weight of a PHEV powertrain. Aware of the limitations that this Captur flagship model would face, Renault hasn't bothered to create an especially feelsome steering rack. They've prioritised instead the kind of light assisted feedback that it rightly thinks probable owners will like. To promote frugality, there's a leisurely level of throttle travel too, although if you do need a sudden burst of acceleration, the accelerator does have a kick-down function, and that brings all the power sources into play, and it suspends the pure electric mode if that's been selected. Hopefully that shouldn't happen too often, allowing this Captur to cruise serenely on its way, ignoring fuel stations and feeling no need to add to the smog in the school-run pickup. As you drive, a few people will notice that you've paid a little more for a lot more technology, but what matters is the impact it'll have on your motoring lifestyle, and this car could change that quite a bit. PHEV models are usually difficult to differentiate from their more conventional counterparts, and this Captur E-TECH Plug-in Hybrid is no exception to that. The differences in chassis structure are slight too. The second generation Captur model line's CMF-B Common Module Family B segment platform, that was designed from the outset to support hybrid and plug-in electrification, although curiously not a full EV model. Renault currently covers off the battery-only part of the small hatch market with its little Zoe hatch, but that car can't offer the street-side presence or the personalisation options on offer here. In profile, you get a feeling for that. The roof, for example, can be specified in contrasting colours, grey, white, orange, or, as in this case, diamond black. The side sills can be finished in orange or grey, and trendy big wheels can also feature, up to 18 inches in size, although this typical S Edition variant settles for these 17-inch Bahamas diamond cut rims. Size-wise, this second generation JBJL series Captur, launched in 2020, is a fraction larger than its successful predecessor, 110mm longer, 19mm wider and 17mm taller. If you want some class perspective, think fractionally bigger than a Ford Puma and a little smaller than a Peugeot 2008, and you'll be about right. Visual differences over a conventional Captur variant are restricted to the addition of an E-TECH plug-in hybrid badge on the B pillar and a flap for the charging socket over the rear driver's side wheel arch. Now, because PHEV Captur models have to be of the plushly trimmed kind, these full LED headlights come surrounded by Renault's trademark C-shaped daytime running light signature. These headlamps feature chrome elements which appear to flow into this wide front grille with its prominent Renault emblem. The bumper incorporates two wide corner air deflectors which add to the assertive character and also apparently improve aerodynamics too. And to emphasise the crossover genre, there's the usual lower silvered skid plate which can be colour customised in those orange or grey finishes. At the rear, the flush-fitting hatch has slim LED taillights intended to emphasise body width with C-shaped illuminating 3D signatures. Another E-TECH plug-in hybrid badge features here, and further detailed touches include a shark fin roof antenna and a rear reversing camera built into the central brand emblem. Plus, here again, there's a colour customisable lower skid plate. Right, so there's no fanfare for the plug-in powertrain outside. Will the use of this Captur's sophisticated drive tech be more evident at the wheel, though? Well, no, not really. There's an EV button amongst the piano-style keys below this central EasyLink infotainment screen, which has various EV-specific menus, including a useful energy infographic showing at any given time what's being powered by what. The 10-inch instrument binnacle display is EV-specific too. Most of the E-TECH features are showcased in the right-hand virtual dial. As well as a lower charge meter, this features an outer rim showing blue regenerative, green charge and white power zones. And it has a central area showing a triangulation of battery, e-motor and engine to depict in real time the hyperactive hybrid system's flow of energy. Glance down at the E-Shifter Auto gear stick and you might notice its extra regenerative braking B option. This lever sits on top of the unusual floating style centre console that's fitted to all automatic Captur models, with a cool blue light shining beneath this protrusion onto the wireless phone charger beneath. Otherwise, things are just as they would be in any other well-specified Captur, and they're further brightened in this case by the optional signature orange interior colour pack, which adds that energetic shade to trim strips across the fascia, as well as one around the lower centre console, with further orange trim featuring on the door cards and around the seat edging. You can have the same thing in either blue or red, or you can stick with the usual boring greys. This cabin still lacks the sheer solidity of a Volkswagen Group product in this class, but it is a huge step forward from anything Renault's offered in this segment before, with soft touch trimming, tactile touch points, and a distinctly Audi-esque feel to parts of this revitalised design, particularly the central circular ventilation dials that sit midway down the centre stack. The smart piano key switches we mentioned earlier featured just above, plus there are various satin finished silver embellishments and a pair of supportive seats too that play their part in helping to push this car a little more upmarket. Although it is disappointing that these chairs can't be had with any kind of adjustable lumbar support, even as an option. Cabin design ergonomics are generally pretty good, although you do get some occasional screen reflections, and we would have preferred to see a proper knob for audio volume rather than the two fiddly screen buttons. Fortunately, there are more easily accessible volume controls on the steering column here. To the left of that column still sits the starter, which is slightly hidden. The brand hasn't followed its PSA Group rivals by adding in an optional head-up display, but everything you really need falls to hand easily enough, particularly the 9.3-inch portrait format EasyLink infotainment screen, which is canted slightly towards the driver for ease of reach and offers navigation, Apple CarPlay and Android Auto smartphone mirroring, Bluetooth, a decent DAB audio system and limited voice activation for things like simple addresses, phone numbers and track selection. As for practicalities, well, our testers had mixed feelings here. As with so many French cars, the glove box is halved in size by an awkwardly shaped fuse box. PSA Group cars suffer from that failing too. Really is about time the Gallic brand sorted that issue out. Still, at least the glove box is properly illuminated and it has an inner lid compartment. You get a useful bank of connectivity ports in a deep well in front of the gear stick, a 12-volt, an aux-in and twin USBs. Renault has forgotten to fit an overhead sunglasses compartment, and the brand seems to have forgotten its MPV heritage because there's no provision for anything like under-seat or passenger footwell storage. But on the plus side, the door pockets are of a reasonable size, and you do get ticket clips in the sun visors. Between the seats, there are twin cup holders, and there's a shutter receptacle near the electronic handbrake. Behind that, there's a deep lidded box between the seats, and the top of it turns out to be an extending armrest. As for all-round visibility, well, as with quite a few other cars in this class, there might be a few issues when it comes to looking over your shoulder. The swept-back roofline means that rear three-quarter vision can be occasionally problematic when you're reversing, so you'll need to make good use of the provided all-round parking sensors and the reversing camera. Frontward visibility on all Capturs isn't too bad. It's helped by these thin front A-pillars, a decent set of door mirrors and a reasonably high-set driving position, which is a lot more commanding than you'll get on a rival VW Group small SUV. What else? Well, we talked earlier about the quality improvement here, although Renault still has work to do in this regard, as you'll discover when you inspect the fittings in more detail. Some of it holds up to scrutiny, things like the Volvo-like textile upholstery fabric and those Audi-style digital climate dials we referenced earlier. Some of it, though, is less impressive, like the way the gear selector creaks in its casing and the lower part of the fascia flexes ahead of your right knee. This satin finish, plastic finishing looks as if it might struggle a little to stand the test of time too. Some of this is stuff that we wouldn't criticise on lesser Captur variants, but in this E-TECH plug-in model's more exalted price segment, buyer perceptions of this Renault's cabin might be less forgiving. Let's take a seat in the rear. It actually feels very decently spacious back here by class standards, and that's helped by the fact that this second generation Captur's CMF-B platform has allowed for a 17mm rear legroom increase. These relatively thin front seat backs also help, as do their curiously angled comma-shaped headrests, which improve frontward visibility for rear occupants. Despite the fact that the PHEV system's battery has been placed under this rear bench, it still keeps the sliding function that you'll find in a more conventional Captur variant, and it moves back and forth over a range of 160 mils. A rival Kia Niro plug-in can't be had with a sliding rear seat, while with a rival Mini Countryman PHEV, this feature costs extra. Unfortunately, unlike in that rival Mini, the seat backs don't recline, but you are reasonably well provided for back here with individual overhead reading lights and proper seat back pockets. Thanks to this low central transmission tunnel, 3 adults could be accommodated here at a push if need be, and kids will be pleased to find that a couple of USB ports and a 12-volt socket are provided beneath these twin centre vents. There are decently sized storage bins, there are door pill cubbies and an overhead coat hook, plus ISOFIX child seat fastenings feature on the outer 2 seats. So the PHEV drivetrain doesn't affect the rear seat experience, but it does quite significantly impact boot space, as to be fair is the case with virtually every plug-in hybrid we test. Here the battery placement sees luggage capacity with this rear seat right back fall from 422 to just 265 litres. That's pretty much super mini sized. To give you some class perspective, it's 40 litres more than you get in a Kia Niro PHEV and a massive 140 litres less than is offered by the plug-in version of the Mini Countryman. At least with this Renault, the retention of that sliding rear bench means that if you have no backseat occupants, or perhaps only a few uncomplaining children in there, then you can improve that figure substantially by pushing those seats right forward. With that forward like that, you'll get 114 litres more space. Unlike in a Clio hybrid, you get an adjustable height boot floor, so this is at least a really flexible space. If you set this luggage board in its lowest position, there's room for really quite tall items. Unlike in an ordinary Captur, there's no significant space below this luggage board, certainly not enough room for the space-saver spare wheel that you can have on a non-electrified version. Here there's just a shallow compartment here for the charging cables, and there's a recess for the tyre mobility kit just to the right of it. What else? Well, there are 2 bag hooks and a left-hand boot light, but there's no 12-volt socket, and a bit more concerningly, there are no tie-down hooks either. Now, one day we'll come across a small SUV fitted with a properly flexible 40-20-40 split backrest, but that day hasn't come yet. So this Captur gets the usual 60-40 split affair, which when it's pushed forward, frees up 1,118 litres of capacity, down from 1,275 normally, across an almost flat load floor of 1.57 metres. If you do need more luggage space in a PHEV hatch of this size, then your dealer will walk you over to the other side of the showroom and will suggest that you take a look instead at the brand's Megane Tourer E-TECH Estate model. You'll be expecting to pay a premium for the PHEV version of this car, but just how much of a premium? Well, let's see. At the time of this test in spring 2021, the core trim level for the Captur E-TECH Plug-in Hybrid 160 model was the plushly specified S Edition spec we have here, for which Renault was asking around £31,000. That's a huge £5,700 more than an identically specified petrol Captur with auto transmission and a conventional TCE 140 petrol engine. Perhaps more significantly though, it's around £3,000 more than Renault wants for the non-plug-in E-TECH 140 version of this car with the alternative self-charging version of this hybrid engine. Even if you're fully committed to the idea of owning a PHEV, these are figures that might give you pause for thought. But that is pretty much what the market is charging. At the time of this test, reviewers of this top Captur variant tended to also point potential customers towards the 2 other direct rivals in the segment for small crossovers with PHEV drivetrains and volume brand badges. Kia's Niro PHEV costs around £500 less and offers about 5 miles more of all-electric driving range, but it lacks this Renault's sliding rear bench and it's a much older product. Better you might think to compare against this car's other key rival, the Mini Countryman PHEV, but that car costs around £1,200 more in its most basic classic form and around £4,500 more in more comparably equipped mid-range sport guise. Certainly you have to consider those Kia and Mini models if you're looking at alternatives to this car, but we think that there are also better options out there for those who are prepared to scour the plug-in hybrid hatch market a bit more carefully. Probably our favourite alternative choice would be the Kia Exceed PHEV, and that's priced very closely to this Renault. You might also want to look at a Jeep Renegade 4xe. Base versions of that car are priced within a few £100s of this Renault, but by the time you bring that Jeep up to this Captur standard of spec, well, you'll probably be looking at spending around £33,000 or even more. That's the kind of sum that would get you the least expensive of the PHEV crossovers available in the next class size up, Vauxhall's Grandland X Hybrid. Rivals to a mid-sized SUV like that are plug-in versions of the Peugeot 3008, the Citroën C5 Aircross and the Hyundai Tucson, all of which sell in the £35,000 to £40,000 bracket. What else? Well, if you don't mind a budget brand badge, the same kind of £30,000 budget could get you the plug-in version of the MG HS, which is a slightly larger SUV than this Renault. If you're not hung up on the idea of having a crossover though, that same kind of budget could get you the plug-in version of Hyundai's Ioniq family hatch, or maybe also the Kia Ceed Sportswagen PHEV, although if you're looking at those two models, you would be more likely to be considering Renault's Megane E-TECH plug-in model. Other compact SUVs with plug-in drivetrains, they have premium badges. That means paying a lot more money. You'll need a £37,000 to £40,000 budget for a car like the Mercedes GLA 250e and the BMW X1 xDrive 25e, and more still for plug-in versions of the BMW X2 and the Audi Q3. If, having considered all that, you conclude it is this Renault that you really want, then you're going to need to know just how generous this French brand has been when it comes to that all-important standard specification. So let's see. Now let's start by briefing you on the core Captur features, things like full LED headlights, power folding, heated mirrors, tinted rear windows and a Thatcham immobiliser. That's along with RAID, Renault anti-intruder device automatic locking. Now to that tally, you can also add automatic air conditioning, cruise control with a speed limiter, driver's seat height adjustment and also keyless keycard entry. Because of all its various EV functions, E-TECH Captur models get a larger 10-inch TFT driver's information display too, plus there's a very complete roster of camera-driven safety kit, which we'll get to shortly. Infotainment's very well taken care of by all Captur variants, and with the plush S Edition trim level that features with this plug-in model, you'll get the brand's largest 9.3-inch EasyLink screen, and that's presented in a Tesla-like portrait format. Now this groups useful functions, apps and services together and gives you full navigation, a 3D setup which includes real-time information from TomTom about heavy traffic or potential dangers ahead, as well as extra functions like the ability to search for addresses using the Google Places system. The EasyLink screen, that's also your access point for Apple CarPlay and Android Auto smartphone mirroring, also a DAB tuner and Bluetooth audio streaming. Always on 4G connectivity that supports automatic updates from Google, from TomTom and Coyote, and that ensures that this media platform is always up to date. Other S Edition spec features include a contrast-coloured roof with longitudinal bars, all-round parking sensors, a shark fin roof antenna, signature LED C-shaped front lighting, auto high-beam headlamps and smart 17-inch Bahamas-style alloy wheels with grey inserts. Inside there's upholstery that's part trimmed in synthetic leather, plus you get a reversing camera, leather for the steering wheel, an auto-dimming rear-view mirror, an electronic parking brake with an auto-hold function, a wireless phone charger and Renault's multi-sense package, which offers this model's 3 driving modes and 8 ambient lighting settings. On to options. Now, Renault's keen that customers of this Captur should consider the bespoke 9-speaker premium audio setup that it's developed for this car in partnership with specialists Bose. Now, this features immersive sound quality with 2 extra tweeters in the rear door panels and a very compact subwoofer. The French maker calls it a fresh air speaker. Now, it's fitted to a Renault for the first time here. It offers superior bass frequencies without the need for a conventional large enclosure which would take up boot space. Instead, sound is channeled to the passenger compartment through a patented duct system built into the vehicle structure. Now, those on board can tailor the Bose audio experience to their tastes, switching from a neutral, studio-like setting to a warmer and more immersive quality of sound. Plus, there's dynamic speed compensation too. Now, this will automatically adjust the volume and the sound equalization on the move, so you don't have to continually adjust the volume as the speed rises. And this Bose premium system is available for an extra £350, and it's an option well worth having if you like your music. Beyond that, many of the options available relate to personalisation and aesthetics. Bear in mind that you'll almost certainly be paying your dealer extra for your choice of paint colour, because the only standard shade and the only solid one is Boston Blue. Beyond that, there are a range of metallic colours, or you could go for a pricier Renault ID metallic shade like this test car's Desert Orange finish. The contrast roof colour, that will be important to Captur E-TECH customers too. There are 4 contrast roof colour shades: Highland Grey, Alabaster White, Desert Orange, or as in this case, Diamond Black. Now, to avoid you creating something too garish, Renault has restricted the availability of some of these to particular main body colours. There are 2 other personalisation options, 2 exterior packs and 3 interior colour packs. The exterior packs come in either orange or grey and add in the requisite colour to the door sills and the front and rear skid plates. The interior colour packs add colour to the centre of the fascia, the door cards, the seat edging and the gear shift surround, and come either in 2 fairly restrained shades of blue or red, or with this test card's extrovert orange signature finish. What else? Well, there's an optional luxury pack with black heated leather seats and a heated steering wheel, and the useful parking pack premium option gives you a 360-degree around view monitor and a hands-free parking system that automatically steers you into spaces. On to practicalities. Now, unfortunately, you can't pay extra for a spare wheel, but you can specify mud flaps, a tow bar, rubber floor mats, an all-in-one boot liner, and quick-fix roof bars that fit with the longitudinal bars and allow you to add on an optional 380-litre roof box. On to safety features. Now, it almost goes without saying that this car, like others in the segment, achieved a 5-star rating in Euro NCAP tests. But that doesn't tell the whole story. Euro NCAP awarded this model excellent overall scores, 96% for adult protection and 83% for child protection, while pedestrian safety achieved a 74% showing. That's enough to offer plenty of peace of mind if you'll be using this car for family transport. Part of the reason why this second-generation Captur model managed to achieve those results lies with its impressive levels of camera safety provision. As you'd expect from a new model in this day and age, autonomous braking is included across the range as standard. This AEBS, Active Emergency Braking System, is bolstered by the latest cyclist and pedestrian detection functionality. Like all Capturs, this one also gets lane departure warning and lane keep assist. Now, these work together on the highway to alert you if you're drifting out of your lane, and if you don't respond, then they will apply a subtle steering assistance to ease the car back to where it ought to be. There is also traffic sign recognition. Now, that will picture the speed signs that you pass and then display them for you on the dash. This model's S Edition trim level also gets a headlight auto high beam feature too, and a blind spot warning feature as well, which alerts you if you're just about to dangerously pull out in front of another vehicle. Otherwise, safety provision is limited to pretty standard stuff. All models get twin front, side and curtain airbags, although no driver's knee bag, plus the usual electronic aids for braking, traction and stability control, including emergency brake assist for emergency stops. ISOFIX child seat fastenings, tyre pressure monitoring and hill start assist to stop you from drifting backwards on uphill junctions are all additional features which make the team sheet. Plus there is a distance warning alert feature which will warn you if you're getting too close to the vehicle in front. And there's an eCall automated emergency call feature too, which will alert the emergency services with your exact GPS location if the airbags go off in an accident. At this level in the Captur range, Renault is also offering a limited degree of level 2 autonomous driving capability. You can have that if you're prepared to pay extra for the optional traffic and motorway assistance pack. Now, this embellishes the lane keep assist feature that we just mentioned with adaptive cruise control. Those two systems can then combine together at speeds of up to 100 miles an hour to control the speed of the car and to maintain safe distances with the vehicles ahead, while keeping this Renault perfectly centred in its lane. Now, if you hit a tailback, then the system will seamlessly bring you to a halt and then automatically start you off again once things start moving. It's just as well that the electrified elements of the E-TECH powertrain are so sophisticated, because the combustion engine that it's all mated to isn't. It's a relatively old-fashioned Nissan MPI unit that's used in models that the Renault-Nissan Alliance still sells in less advanced Russian and South American markets, and it doesn't feature any kind of turbocharger. Still, when it's mated to all the hybrid tech we detailed for you earlier on in our driving experience section, it can certainly deliver some eye-catching efficiency stats. The WLTP figure for combined cycle fuel economy is up to 188.3 mpg. The WLTP CO2 reading is up to 34 grams per kilometre, and as we said earlier on in our driving experience section, the WLTP rated driving range figure is up to 31 miles. You'll need some class perspective on that. The Mini Countryman PHEV, that manages up to 156.9 mpg, up to 39 grams per kilometre, and a driving range of up to 31.7 miles. The two main Kia alternatives, the Niro PHEV and the Exceed PHEV, both manage up to 201.8 mpg, up to 31 grams per kilometre, and a driving range of up to 36 miles. All these models, including this Renault, have CO2 figures that are green enough to qualify for a super low 10% benefit-in-kind taxation rating and free first-year road tax. So this Renault is class competitive, but no more than that. All these figures from all these brands, though, are pretty much pie in the sky when it comes to real-world readings. And with this particular car in day-to-day driving, we've been getting around 60 to 65 mpg without too much trouble. That's the sort of economy that you'd also get from this model's Captur E-TECH Hybrid 140 self-charging, non-plug-in showroom stablemate. That variant's benefit-in-kind taxation rating would be higher though, I think around 22%, because its CO2 return is up at around 100 grams per kilometre. Let's give you some Captur context to the figures we've just quoted for the two E-TECH hybrid models. For comparison, a conventional petrol Captur TCE 140 Auto manages 47.1 mpg on the combined cycle and 135 grams per kilometre of CO2. Those figures equate to a 30% benefit-in-kind taxation rating. The only Captur diesel still on sale, the DCI 95, manages 58.9 mpg and 125 grams per kilometre, and it has a 32% BIK taxation rating. Of course, official figures are one thing, actual day-to-day returns are another, and mindful of this, Renault's provided a variety of e-driving tools to enable Captur E-TECH hybrid drivers to get as close as possible to the stated readings. As you drive, you'll have to keep a close eye on the right-hand instrument screen dial and keep its needle as often as possible in the charge rather than in the power section. You will also want to make frequent use of the provided pure and EV electric only drive modes, and you'll need to remember to often switch the auto gear lever into its B position so you can maximize the regenerative brake energy harvesting and so preserve battery charge. Regular activation of these tools, says Renault, will boost the urban all-electric range of this car up towards 40 miles. Charging time via a Type 2 Mode 3 cable is 3 hours or 4 hours 15 minutes from a domestic socket. If you get on top of all that, you'll want to keep an eye on how efficiently the powertrain's working, and there are display options which enable you to do that on both the provided TFT monitors. The right-hand virtual dial in the instrument binnacle here has a central area that shows a triangulation of battery, e-motor and engine to depict in real time the hybrid system's flow of energy. But it's the central Easy Link screen that'll be your main point of reference for EV feedback. Consult the car info section and you'll find an energy info icon which takes you into a history graph divided into 15, 10 and 5 minute sections, plus a live graphic so you can see what's happening in real time. There's also a list screen option with more useful EV readouts, one for average energy consumption and another for total recuperated energy. As with an ordinary Captur, you get a 4-year warranty. It's a bit better than the 3-year warranty of the rival Mini Countryman PHEV, but it's nowhere near as good as the 7-year cover that Kia provides to Nero and Exceed PHEV customers. Bear in mind that the final 2 years of this Renault's policy, they restrict you to 100,000 miles. You get 4 years of UK emergency breakdown recovery and 3 years of European cover as part of that package. Insurance for this Captur E-TECH Plug-in Hybrid is rated at Group 15E. That's a group lower than the equivalent conventional TCE 140 petrol model. And scheduled servicing is every 12 months or 18,000 miles, whichever comes around first. The PHEV system's battery has a separate 8-year, 100,000 mile warranty. As usual, prepaid servicing plans are available, a 3-year, 30,000 mile deal or a 40,000 mile package. Finally, residual values. The experts at Cap reckon 36% after 3 years. As you'd expect from a brand that's been selling electrified vehicles for over a decade, Renault is well advanced with this technology, and that shows with cars like this Captur E-TECH Plug-in Hybrid 160. It's one of 12 different hybrid engine models that the brand's developed, and it's the most popular PHEV car that the company makes. There are certainly lots of reasons why you might want one of these, including all the usual plug-in hybrid attributes, of course, basically many of the good bits of an EV without the range anxiety downside. Plus, this Renault is more appealing in many ways than its two most direct rivals, the PHEV versions of the Kia Niro and the Mini Countryman. It's more customisable and it's smoother in terms of transmission and ride quality. We would still struggle to recommend it though over its E-TECH Hybrid 140 self-charging non-plug-in showroom stablemate. Compared to that car, there's a much smaller boot and a significantly higher price. And unless this PHEV model's benefit in kind tax savings are really significant for you, you'd need a very dedicated charging regime to make the running costs of this plug-in version massively better than those of the self-charging variant. Still, a very dedicated charging regime is a sort of thing that a lot of potential customers here will have in mind. And with that in place, there would be a lot to like here. Now, yes, the money being asked for this car would get you a compact SUV with a posher badge, but you wouldn't be able to cruise silently past fuel stations in it, not unless you paid vastly more anyway. PHEVs of all kinds used to require you to pay vastly more, but thankfully things are changing, and this car's a sign of that, which is why we're happy to welcome it. You might be too.